An ancestral community graveyard in Marsabit is on the verge of being rabbed for private use by individuals the community there says are well known to the authorities. The community cemetery that has for decades been set aside for public utility by the Pentecostal denomination and also hosts a World War I cemetery. Citizen TV's O'Day Francis was in Marsabit visiting the close to 2 hectares of cemetery land whose alleged grabbing is dragging in, among others, the National Lands Commission.
Marsabit town is home to the Commonwealth War Graves, a small but historically significant cemetery that is part of the Protestant Christian cemetery. This site borders both Catholic and Muslim cemeteries and houses a war cemetery for soldiers who fell during the Second World War. This revered ground holds the grave of Daudi Danabo Jibo, the first Christian convert to be buried here in 1939. Recent developments have raised serious concerns about the management and protection of this historically significant land as private developments encroach upon the cemetery.
On my right is Marsabit War Cemetery. 25 East African military men were buried here between 1939 and 1945. But behind me is a developer within the same cemetery that was given to Protestants, claiming to have a title deed that this land or this plot belongs to him.
An aerial view of the cemetery reveals evidence of encroachment. Permanent structures including a church, garage, lodgings and a bar have been erected right in the heart of the cemetery. Fences have been put up, marking the boundaries of the grabbed land. But the Christian community led by the Marsabit Pastor Fellowship in Marsabit is pushing back against the alleged grabbing. We spoke to Solomon Galgalo Daudi, whose father was the first person to be buried here in 1939.
Tupewe sehemu yetu kwa ukamilifu ili we should give them the respect ya wale waliotutangulia.
Just like Solomon, Jacob Ooche's father was among the first evangelists in Marsabit as well and was buried here in 1975.
We can see that there's a grabbing of land. All around there's a building. On top of that there's a bar, there's a lodging. Every other place is being occupied unnecessary. And we are very sad about this issue. We like the government to come in and settle this thing once and for all. And this is a graveyard. And this is where my father was buried. He was buried here in 1975. And he was one of the first priests, ACK preach, who was ordained 1956. And he was buried here in 1975. But the problem of this place was grabbing. And the grabbing started very slowly, like a kibanda. After kibanda, there's a house coming up. But the government never issued any title deed to this land.
Jacob Elisha Godana, the area member of County Assembly for Marsabit Central, is also affected. His 7 family members have been buried here.
Today, somebody has grabbed this land and he has a title deed of the year 1989. And the first person was buried here in 1940. And he has a title deed of 1989 and the year 2000. So we wonder, how comes you build a church, you build a restaurant, a lodging, and a bar, and you dig a toilet on a graveyard? So we are wondering, we want to ask the government, which criteria did you use? And you know very well that there is a Marsabit War Cemetery here. According to the information from NLC and the Ministry of Lands, Nairobi, the title deed of war grave is ready. But funny enough, we are getting from the same office that there is somebody who is now claiming to the ownership of the same land. So who is issuing the title deed?
Reverend Joseph Jiwe of Marsabit Pentecostal Church adds his voice to the outcry.
Kotini iliamua 2017 iseme hiyo title deed zote ziwe revoked na si tupatiwe title deed ingine. Kwa hivyo kutoka 2017 mpaka 2024 hakuna title deed wametupatia.
In a report dated January 14, 2016, Marsabit's Chief Executive for Energy, Lands and Urban Development, Yasin Abubakar, addressed the contentious land issue. The report revealed that a 1992 survey by David Mwangi Madhai identified the graveyard land based on a part development plan, PDP, allocated as follows: Gilabaji and Hussein Tari under LR number 11969/211, Protestant graveyard under LR number 11969/212, Adan Jilohuka under LR number 11969/213. Subsequent investigations by the Land Commission recommended the revocation of the said part development plan used to initiate these surveys and all associated title deeds. The findings concluded that the war cemetery is linked to the Protestant graveyard, designated as a public utility, a matter that escalated to the Environment and Land Court at Meru in 31st August 2017 and concluded on 3rd June 2019 under Environment Judge E.C. Cherono. We sought answers from the county government of Marsabit, and Marsabit's county's Minister for Lands, Amina Chala, confirmed that the cemetery is indeed public utility.
Where the graveyard is in public land, and it cannot be given to any other person, but it only serves the purpose of public, and specifically Christian graveyard. Developers should find their own private land. They cannot do their whatever buildings on public land.
The war cemetery is one of our richest historical sites. So if it is true, as reported, that somebody has encroached, for sure, we will take all the necessary action, evict those individuals, and in fact, fence the place off.
We reached out to the National Lands Commission, where its chairman, Geshom Otachi, stated the position of the NLC of the Marsabit cemetery saga.
You see, this was land that was reserved for a cemetery, not necessarily titled to the pastor's fellowship. So what is important is to ensure that those titles are cancelled from the register and there are no titles on it. Then what would happen is the county government can ask us under Section 15 of the Land Act to have it formally reserved and gazetted as such.
Now, with the growing appetite of land grabbing, even cemeteries like these ones have been grabbed. The question remains, is National Land Commission really dealing with land injustices in Kenya? Ode Francis, Citizen TV, Marsabit.